Hello and welcome to the Card Combo Show with me, Choco Billy, where I discuss weird and wonderful card combinations in the Final Fantasy TCG. Well, let's get to it. The first one is REFIA 2-141H. So I've always loved using this card in a general standard units deck. Obviously you have to be in water to really make good use out of it. But basically her text is, the cost required to play your job standard unit forwards onto the field is reduced by 1. It cannot become 0. So she's a forward, so she's fairly easy to get rid of, and she is a 2 cost, so she's reasonably on curve. But the standard things she tends to run with, I haven't put them in here, but Arc, the standard unit backup buffer. But yeah, so Warrior of Light, the job standard unit, forwards you control gain plus 2,000 power on first strike. That's actually a fairly formidable ability to be able to give a plus 2k buff and first strike. First strike itself being a very, very powerful ability. It's what wins games a lot of the time. So basically means that you get more bang for your buck. Again, the one issue with that is the fact that Warrior of Light is a forward, and forwards are traditionally easier to get rid of than backups. There's the other Warrior of Light, so you can see a theme here of Warriors of Light. When a job standard unit forward enters the field, choose up to 2 backups, activate them. And then when Warrior of Light attacks, all job standard unit forwards you control gain plus 2,000 power until the end of the turn. Worrying more about the first ability there, so I mean you've already reduced the cost of the forwards you would play with REFIA, so to be able to then reactivate backups with Warrior of Light is a fantastic ability. If you can reduce their cost to something stupidly low, then you're probably making money. And then you also got Tilika as well, so I've talked about her in a previous video, how she can reduce the cost of things. I mean, generally you want to be playing more than one forward or character, in her case, to be able to make the most out of her ability, because if you're just dulling her to reduce the cost of one forward, then you might as well have just dulled her for the CP. But yeah, so Gareth might be something that works along well with. Now obviously REFIA is in water, and Gareth requires you to have 5 or more Earth characters, and if so, then Gareth gains plus 2,000 power, so you generally want to be in a mono Earth deck, but you know, you could have a little bit of water splashed in there just to keep the standard unit theme going. And Pugilist is another forward that would work well alongside Gareth. So Gareth would buff Pugilist, and Pugilist would help towards buffing the Gareth. And Pugilist text is, for each job standard unit forward other than Pugilist you control, Pugilist gains plus 2,000 power. So, I mean, that could work quite well with the Tilika and REFIA. If you've used Tilika, then Pugilist will only become 1, unfortunately it won't be free, because both cards state that it cannot become 0, the cost. But then, say you've got 5 backups on the backup line and you've dulled Tilika, then you can pay the remaining 4 for both the Gareth and the Pugilist. That is effectively meaning that you're paying for Gareth and getting Pugilist for free, because you've minus 2 CP in their values. Another forward that you could run in a more ice-themed standard unit deck, which is fairly rare to be honest, but is the DGS Trooper First Class. So the ice job standard unit forwards that you control gain plus 2,000 power, so he's like a worse Warrior of Light, but if you want to go more into ice from standard units, and there are some decent ones now as well, then you could do that. You could run this DGS Trooper First Class as well as the Warrior of Light to give a plus 4,000 buff and first strike to your ice standard unit forwards, which is scary to be honest, but again, forward, easy to remove. And Time Mage is something that you could run it alongside, so it would only be a 7k, but that makes it more on curve for its cost, but it would also only cost 2 if REFIA is on the field, and paying 2 to get out a 7k forward and have it dull and free something, that's not bad value at all. And then Thief, so this is alongside the Warrior of Light, so you play this onto the field and you reactivate 2 backups. When Thief enters the field, if the cost to play Thief was paid with CP of 2 or more different elements, so in this case probably water, draw 1 card, which fits nicely into Water's theme as well. But, I mean, you would have only paid 3 for the Thief if you got REFIA on the field, and to reactivate 2 backups means you've effectively only paid 1, and to then draw a card means that you've paid -1. Yeah, right, here we go, here's my forte, Chocobo. So, if you had REFIA, Chocobo only costs 2, Warrior of Light, he's cost nothing, and he's haste. Run that alongside some other chocobos as well. You can see where I'm going with this. Again, with this setup of REFIA and Warrior Light, this guy would effectively be free, and the thing that Bobo's does is it just swarms. And then you can have something along like this little guy, where he would only have cost 1 with REFIA on the field, but then Warrior of Light, you get to reactivate 2 backups. So you end up making money, like I said earlier. Alright, the next card, Gadgeteer 11-089C. His text is, a lightning and a dull, remove Gadgeteer and 1 backup from the game. Choose 1 backup in your break zone. If its cost is equal to the total cost of the 2 cards removed from the game, play it onto the field. You can only use this ability during your turn. So you are losing 2 backups, and there aren't any backups, as of the recording of this video, that do anything when they simply leave the field or remove from the game. That all the backups that do anything are if they are broken. So unfortunately you can't capitalise on that at the moment. But a card that you could break up and with Gadgeteer would be something like Aldo. That would then mean that you can bring anything of cost 6 onto the field from your break zone, or a backup from your break zone, and Aldo will have only cost you effectively 2 because he will have searched you a forward. Now, Sid Previa is the first thing that comes to mind if you have used Gadgeteer alongside a 4-cost backup. It could also be something like Sage as well, but if you're running Gadgeteer, you don't want to be retrieving too much from your break zone, because then there might not be anything there for you to actually retrieve. I mean, obviously, Gadgeteer's ability may be a bit more of a later game ability to use, but you never know when you have to do these things, right? So Sid Previa. So when Sid Previa enters the field, choose 1 lightning backup of cost 3 or less in your break zone, play it onto the field. So you're getting rid of Gadgeteer and whatever backup you destroy, and Sid Previa is coming in as well as another backup. Now, Mid Previa is obviously the card that it's meant to be used with. When Mid Previa enters the field, choose 1 active forward, deal at 3000 damage. When Mid Previa enters the field from the break zone, choose 1 active forward, deal at 6k. So if your opponent's got an active forward to target, then you can deal them 9k with this ability, which is reasonable. Reeve. Now I put Reeve instead of just any searcher because he's more relevant, or not more relevant, he's more recent, sorry. And he can also search the Kate Sith, both forwards and backup, the ice backup, which is quite nice, and he's an EX burst, so that can search you quite a multitude of cards. But yeah, I mean, Sid of Clan Gully, to be able to get Iliua, Duke, Gold, Tana, I think it is, to get a Knight, but you get where I'm going with this. Like, it could be any searcher alongside Sid Previa, and that gets you even more value out of that. You've got rid of 2 backups, you brought Sid on, then you brought in Reeve to then search something else. Now Ramza. Ramza could be another backup that you get rid of with the Gadgeteer. Now that would allow you to bring in a backup of 7. Ramza can also recur part of his cost, hopefully. So when Ramza enters the field, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 forward, 1 backup and 1 summon among them to your hand, and put the rest of the cards into the break zone. So that's not great. However, it can work in your favour because Ramza could reveal a couple of backups, and then you get to pick which one you add to your hand, but then one of them goes in the break zone. That could be the one you want to actually use with Gadgeteer's ability. But yeah, so if you were to put Gadgeteer and Ramza into the break zone, you could then bring a backup of 7. Now, we're not locked to elements here, so board wipe anyone? It's nice to have that ability, and generally if you throw in these off-color cards into a mono-themed deck, then your opponent will forget about them, or if you can sneakily get it into your break zone without your opponent noticing, then that'll be a nice little board wipe, and they'll be like, what's he gonna do? And then you just get rid of Ramza and Gadgeteer, and all of a sudden Shantoto, everyone's field is gone, let's start again. Now, Shantoto is also a good call because it can generate air CP of any element, so it still kind of fits on curve, or not on curve, sorry, in colour. Tama, again, so this doesn't work as well with it if you're in a mono lightning deck, but when Tama enters the field, choose 1 earth forward of cost 5 or less in your break zone, play it onto the field. So you could be earth lightning, and to be able to bring an earth forward of 5 or less into your break zone, it recurs something to the field. So effectively getting rid of Gadgeteer and Ramza to bring Tama on, so you've recurred a backup and then hopefully a forward as well. Obviously you wouldn't be using it if you had to if there wasn't a forward there for Tama to recur, but Tama's ability to pay 6, put Tama into the break zone, choose one earth forward, of course 5 or more, play onto the field, dull. Again, you can only be using her turn. That's a nice, I say it's nice, it's expensive, but again, it's another way to recur stuff. So she has that ability to recur things a few times, and it could surprise your opponent. They, like, generally if you're paying 7, people are going to be like, oh, here comes Shantoto, but here comes Tama to then bring something back onto the field. There's the list of forwards that Tama can bring onto the field is far too long. I'm not going to list them all, but maybe I'll do her in a video coming up. Yuna! So she'll bounce something, hopefully, when she enters the field. Now be wary, because obviously if your opponent doesn't have any forwards there, she will have to bounce one of your forwards, because when Yuna enters the field, choose one forward. Not choose one forward your opponent controls. So she will end up bouncing one of yours, which may work into your plan. That might be something you want to do, but it's something to bear in mind. If a character is put from the field into the break zone, you may remove it from the game instead. Now, if you're in Mono Lightning, that might be quite useful, because Mono Lightning is pretty good at breaking things, but it isn't so good at getting them to stay dead or stay gone. You end up spending a lot to get rid of something, then it comes back, so yeah, it can be a bit of a pain. So being able to break things and just have them gone completely is very nice. Obviously you've got NUO to be able to do similar to Yuna, but Yuna being a backup makes her much more viable for that ability. Star Sybil. Yeah, it's kind of gross. You get rid of... when talking about Yuna and Star Sybil, obviously Gadgeteer, and then it could be any 3-cost backup. I mean, the list is endless. Let's go with Reeve, shall we? And that would also make Reeve replayable again if you so needed to. But yeah, bringing in Star Sybil to search something and then also play something as well, that's great value. And then good old Emperor Gestal. Yeah, to get rid of Gadgeteer and then another backup to bring Emperor Gestal to just flat out break something. I mean, that's lightning all over. That fits very nicely. And then you can also use his dull and break ability to bring in something, lightning, Camlin or Veritas. Either way, it's just... Oh no, sorry, he can't play Veritas. Scratch that. He can't play Veritas. He can only bring in a forward of 5 or less. I was thinking of Star Sybil there. Apologies. But yeah, bring in something like Camlin to then search another dark forward if you're going that vein of things. Or Herdy. So Gadgeteer would only have to break a backup of 1. So the chance of that happening is pretty slim, but Gadgeteer and something else going away to then bring in Herdy. Now that might seem like a bit of a strange idea, but Herdy enters the field, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character, add it to your hand. That applies in all decks. But to be able to dull and put Herdy into the break zone, choose one category FFTA2 forward in the break zone, add to your hand Ilua. Ilua is an FFTA2 forward who could be in the break zone. To be able to play Herdy onto the field without having to be in ice and just be in Mono Lightning would actually be quite effective and could really, well, could blindside your opponent. Right, MIRA 11-122H. I think this card is fun. So when a category FFCC character other than MIRA you control is put from the field into the break zone, you may search for one category FFCC character of the same card type and add it to your hand. This effect will only trigger once per turn. And the real ability here, dull, choose one category FFCC character other than a forward you control, activate it until the end of turn. It also becomes a forward of 8,000 power. We have our first card that can make a backup a forward. Yay! So there's some obviously janky things you're going to be able to do with this, but a few things that come to mind are Carbuncle. Oh look, it's that back attack backup that everyone's kind of like, well, yeah, I guess it's nice. It's nice to be able to play it on your opponent's turn so he's ready to go next turn to give you CP, and if you had him in hand to be able to play something, I don't know. But yeah, now you effectively have a backup, or you have a back attack backup forward. So you play him onto the field, you pay 2, and then you dull MIRA. He activates, which is the big thing here, because obviously backups, regardless of when they get played, will come in dull. And then he activates and becomes a forward of 8k. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Pavlov. Now this could be quite funny, because you could make Pavlov a forward, activate him, block, and dull Pavlov to buff Pavlov. So he is now N 9k. If you've got Enna Crow down, he could be a 10k, which is a strange but wonderful thing, and I think that's quite funny. Moogle Brothers. Now you'd have to be in a more Moogle themed deck, but they're not hard to make these days. There's lots of different Moogles, but the big thing is Moogle Brothers has a dull and break ability, so even if the forward that MIRA makes into, the card that MIRA makes into a forward is going to die, if it's Moogle Brothers, you just block with it, dull, put Moogle Brothers into the break zone, play one job Moogle of cost 2 or less from your hand up to the field. At the moment that's only another backup, but still, to be able to block with a backup and then use his ability to then bring something onto the field, that's really useful. Now it is worth mentioning that if the backups, haven't been on the field for more than one turn, they will not be able to use their dull abilities, because even though they've only just become a forward, they will have needed haste to be able to use that ability quickly, or to be able to use it before your next turn comes around. Kuchaspel, now he's not a great card for blocking with, but if he's going to die on the block, if you make him forward and he blocks and dies, it gives you the ability to replay Kuchaspel, which would be quite useful. Now it's worth mentioning that all these times this happens, anytime a forward blocks, anytime a backup that has been made a forward by MIRA blocks and dies, because of MIRA's ability, you get to go search another FFCC character of that same type. So, like with Moogle Brothers, even if it wasn't going to die, you could still use its ability, put it into the break zone, play a Moogle and backup down, and then go search another FFCC backup as well, because you've used the ability put into the break zone. And same applies to Kuchaspel. If he dies on the block, then you go search yourself another Kuchaspel, and that'll free something. Death Machine. Now this is where the jank gets real. So he's obviously a monster, not backup, but his text is: each turn at the beginning of main phase 1, if neither player controls forwards, put Death Machine into the break zone. He's had an errata. I can't remember if this is the errata text or not, but I believe it is. At the end of your turn, choose one forward your opponent controls, break it. At the end of your opponent's turn, select one forward you control, put it into the break zone. So the reason I like this card is because on your turn, you play Death Machine, and then do whatever else you were going to do, and then at the end of your turn, choose one forward your opponent controls, break it. You break your opponent's forward. Okay, cool. You get to the end of your opponent's turn, or let's say they go to attack, you make Death Machine a forward, block with him, he dies. Now you don't have to get rid of one of your forwards. Or if it gets to the end of your opponent's turn, you just make him a forward, and then you put him into the break zone for his own ability, and then using MIRA's ability, you go search another FFCC monster, like Death Machine. You get another Death Machine to hand, you get to your next turn, you play Death Machine again, rinse, repeat till silky smooth. And Chelinka, so this is obviously, they came out in the same set, so it's got to have been, the idea's got to have been there, but when Chelinka enters the field, choose one forward until the end of the turn, it gains Brave, and this forward can attack twice in the same turn, and she'll also pay 2 wind, dull, return Chelinka to your hand. If she becomes a forward, you can block. If she doesn't die, fantastic, but even if she is going to die, she's blocked, so that means she's stopped the attack coming through, and then you can use her ability to put her back in your hand, and then your next turn comes up, you play her again, another forward gets to attack twice, maybe even MIRA, she'll have Brave, so you'd have to worry about her ability disappearing. Maybe you could use MIRA's ability to make a backup, or even a monster, a forward, and then you play Chelinka and make that one attack twice. Now that would be just bizarre, actually. Actually, it'd be quite a good way of, ooh, there's an idea I hadn't even thought of. So you use MIRA to make a backup, let's go with Kuchaspel, to make him a forward. He can attack twice with Chelinka's ability, he'll have Brave, so he'll still be available to dull for CP. Huh. Kinda cool, actually. And then another monster, Golem. It's useful just to have this sort of little thing out there, because you've paid 1 for him, you can dull MIRA to make him an 8k. Pay 1 for an 8k monster, or an 8k forward. Worse things have happened. AMODAR, so not a heavily played card, to say the least, but I like him anyway, because he's, in the right situation, a really good card. So AMODAR 5-149S. So he came in a starter set, or starter deck even, so there's no reason why he can't use this card, aside from not being able to buy the deck. But anyway, if your opponent controls any monster, AMODAR gains plus 2000 power, first strike, and Brave. If your opponent has any monster, he becomes a 10k first strike Brave. That's scary. If your opponent has Death Gaze something of yours away, you're like, well, here's my AMODAR. he's huge. He's a big boy. But the thing I'm actually focusing on here is when a forward you control is put from the field into the break zone, double the power of AMODAR until the end of the turn. If he's already got 10k First Strike and Brave, he's doubling that. Oh boy, that is large. So let's go with some weirder options, shall we? So Palom. When Palom attacks, choose one forward opponent controls, deal it 2000 damage. When Palom deals damage to your opponent, or when the forward damaged by Palom is put from the field into the break zone during the same turn, you may put Palom into the break zone. I'm not going to bother reading the rest because it just brings in a Palom. But Palom is put into the break zone. Double AMODAR's power. And then you can bring in another Palom using Palom's ability to probably nuke something on their field. Or the other Wonder Twin, Porom. So she has the pay to water dull, put Porom to the break zone, search for one card named Porom, play onto the field. You've put the forward you control into the break zone. AMODAR becomes huge. And you get to bring in a Porom as well, which there's... most of them are good. Not all of them, but most of them. Vivi, so you can just put this little guy into the break zone, deal something 5k, or pay 2 fire, put Vivi into the break zone, deal something 8k. AMODAR becomes huge. It's not a very complicated combination, this one. Desh, so again you'd need to be on 5 damage, but put Desh into the break zone, choose one forward, break it. Ursula, so another new card. When Ursula enters the field, choose one job monk or card name monk of cost 2 or less in your break zone, play it onto the field. That's fine, that means that you have the monk ready for her second ability. Put one job monk or card name monk other than Ursula into the break zone. Select one of the following 2 options. I'm not going to bother reading those because you get to put a forward, if it is a forward monk, into the break zone. AMODAR's power doubles. And Magic Pot. Now Magic Pot needs an episode of his own, and I'll probably include him in next week's episode, to be honest, because I love Magic Pot. The stupid janky things you can do with this guy is hilarious. But ultimately, you get to put any forward you control into the break zone, provided Magic Pot survives. I mean, I don't think at this stage many people run too much monster removal, so having Magic Pot there to be able to break something is quite funny. I mean, it could be the case that you've only got AMODAR on the field and Magic Pot, and any forward you try to play just keeps on getting removed. But the good thing about this is that Magic Pot, or it's pay 1 earth, dull, put Magic Pot and 1 forward without the generic symbol into the break zone. And I'm not going to bother reading the rest, but ultimately that is part of the payment. So your opponent can do what they want to the forward that you're going to Magic Pot. At the end of the day, so long as Magic Pot has been able to use his ability, that forward has been put into the break zone and AMODAR's power has been doubled. Cloud of Darkness. So when Cloud of Darkness enters the field, you may put one character you control into the break zone. When you do so, your opponent selects one dull forward he or she controls, put it into the break zone, and then when Cloud of Darkness attacks, each player selects up to 2 active characters he or she controls, selects as many as possible, dull them, and freeze them. So for the first ability, Goomba, this card never gets played, but with cards like Kuja, it might have a bit more of a place. You put Goomba into the break zone for Cloud Darkness' first ability. When Goomba is put from the field into the break zone, you may search for one card named Goomba and play onto the field dull. So he's effectively recurred himself. Obviously you want to use a CP before you put him in the break zone, but there you have it. And yeah, running alongside something like Kuja as well to get Kuja back to hand if he's in the break zone, it just helps you kind of keep that curve up a little bit. So, talking about the second ability now. When Cloud of Darkness attacks, each player selects up to 2 active characters he or she controls, attacks as many possible, dull and freeze them. Now, if you stack it correctly so that you attack Cloud of Darkness, obviously that triggers both Nono and her own ability. You stack it so that Cloud of Darkness's ability resolves first, and then Nono afterwards to then reactivate Nono, or whatever it is you want to reactivate. Same applies to Rem. If Rem is dealt damage, reduce damage by 3000 instead. At the end of your turn, activate Rem. So even if you freeze her at the end of your turn, she comes back online anyway, and she can also use her dull ability to choose one forward other than Rem, activate it. So if you did pick something else with Cloud of Darkness' ability, you can still use Rem to activate it, and then she herself will reactivate at the end of your turn. Yasma as well, obviously he's got a buttload of good abilities, but activate all the characters you control just at the beginning of your turn. So if you dull and froze something, you may have to go through your opponent's turn with some frozen things, but activate other characters you control, they come back online on your turn anyway. Class 9th Moogle. Now this might seem like a bit of a strange decision, but if Class 9th Moogle is on the field, Class 9th Moogle can produce Wind CP. Now you don't have to be in a fully fledged Wind Ice deck, but having just this little guy here means that you're able to play things like Asura. So Asura has selected one of the 3 following options: choose up to 2 forwards, activate them; choose up to 5 backups, activate them. I'm not going to bother reading on, but you get the idea. That basically means that you can reactivate the 2 forwards that you froze, or a forward, or some backups you froze. Obviously you can't do both, so you have to think about it, but also means you can play things like Diablo as well to just reactivate your backups, reactivate your forwards. Having the Class 9th Moogle there gives you the ability to reactivate things without your opponent having to think about that. They might just be like, Ash, so kind of deviating from Wind Ice now to Ice Water. She pay 2 water, activate Ash. She could be frozen, you activate her. We're gravy. And in the theme of Ice Water, Thordan. When Thordan enters the field, you may search 1 card and add it to your hand, so that's any card, that's good. But when Thordan 7th is put from the field into the break zone, draw 1 card. So that works alongside Cloud Dancer's first ability as well. As you put him into the break zone, you draw yourself a card, you get to break one of your opponent's forwards. Noctis 7-077L. So he is a bit of a janky card, but I'll do my best to explain it. So EX Burst, when you receive damage, choose up to 1 forward. That has to happen whenever you receive damage. But if you have received 6 points of damage, break it. So it's only on the 6th point of damage that he breaks anything anyway. When you receive damage, choose up to 1 forward your opponent controls. Noctis and the forward deal damage equal to their respective power to each other. So that would mean if Noctis was facing off against a Noctis, they would deal 7k to each other. And then you can pay 2 Earth and 2 Colourless. During this turn, next damage dealt to Noctis becomes 0 instead. C card, so if C card receives damage, reduce damage by 2000 instead, but if an Earth forward other than C card controlled is dealt damage, reduce damage by 1000 instead. So that means when you are dealt damage, Noctis will take 1k less, so that means he can face off against a 7k and not die. You combine that with an Crow, he can face off against an 8k and not die, which is useful. And he himself will actually be able to take out that forward as well, which is useful. Tama. Now this might seem like a strange one, but your opponent goes to attack you. You've got Noctis on the field. Now chances are if they're attacking when you've got Noctis on the field, they've got to trick up their sleeves as well, but just humour me. You aren't going to block. On the stack, use Tama's ability to play Seymour. Seymour, EX Burst, when Seymour enters the field, search 1 summon and put it on top of your deck. You see where I'm going with this. Now provided they let all this resolve and you take the damage, the forward you put to the top of your deck is good old Titan. If it's your 6th point of damage, then oh boy, we're having a fun time. So the EX Burst has to resolve first because it's a non-stackable action, which means that Titan has to happen. So choose 1 forward you control, Noctis, and he'll gain plus 2000 power and deal his power to a forward of your choosing that your opponent controls. So he's now a 9k, maybe even a 10k if you've got a Crow, and he's probably killed something. If it's your 6th point of damage, break something with Noctis' ability, and then when Noctis deals damage, or when you take a point of damage, Noctis will deal his power to something, which will be either 9 or 10k depending on your situation. Titan. I mean, you can pay the 2 Earth and the 2 Colourless to make sure he doesn't receive damage, or you can just make it so he can't be broken. Now, obviously, he will become dull through this, but if you're paying 2 Earth and you're getting rid of a card, you might as well just make it so he can't be broken rather than not taking damage, because this is probably the safer bet. You can also link that with Graviton. When you cast an Earth Summon, choose 1 forward you control, it gains plus 2000 power until the end of the turn. So you're going to take the damage, but you cast Titan with Graviton, he becomes a 9k, and then he's not going to die because of Titan, and you'll deal 9k right back. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Let me know in the comments below if you've got any other weird and wonderful combos that you'd like to share with me. Also, follow me on Twitter at ChocoBilly92, and also let me know if you would be interested in me having a face cam. I don't, because I don't have a backdrop or anything, so it would just be a bit weird. But I can sort something out if that's the sort of thing you guys would like. And yeah, see you in the next video.